Hey everybody, and welcome back. This is the third video of the series about finding the rib and repairing it and reconstructing it. If you haven't seen the first two videos, the first one was about finding it. The second video was about getting it out of the jacket and getting it prepped and cleaned. And this video, I'm going to go over what I did to reconstruct the rib and make it as nice as possible again. So as you'll probably remember, when we first found the rib, it was partially exposed on the surface. It was already broken up pretty bad. So we did the excavation, we put it in a jacket, and we brought it home safe and sound. Then we cleaned out all the overburden, actually underburden in this case. Cleaned out all the matrix, and then we took the pieces out. Since they already had breaks, I went ahead and just removed them as their individual sections. And then we began prepping and cleaning the surface of them. And one of the things I noticed as soon as I started doing the prep on this is that each individual section was itself highly fractured as well, but everything was pretty much still together. There were breaks, but the breaks were pretty clean. They just had matrix in the middle. So what I decided I was going to do was to clean all the matrix out, to basically separate all those breaks, to remove all of the hidden matrix so that these pieces could be put back together as cleanly as possible. And some of the segments were in good shape. Like this one here, it has a little sun bleaching on it, but it has nice clean edges on it. So I knew that was going to go back together well. And some of them didn't. Some of them were broken and separated and had a lot of matrix in the middle of it. But it was a pretty slow process of separating all of the individual fragments of each piece. But it's what I wanted to do to achieve the outcome that I got. So now this is the first three sections that have been cleaned and separated. And this is those first three pieces as I'm putting them back together. You can see how clean those lines, once all the matrix is removed, how well that they go back together. Now, one interesting thing I found, you can see these lines right here, and there's a little bit fainter one here that runs through, of course it runs through the break. But these are actually healed fracture lines from when the animal was alive. It suffered an injury, broke this rib, and then that broken rib rehealed itself. And here's one of the other pieces. And originally when I see it like that, I'm not sure exactly what's going on. I can see that there's bone all the way through there, but it doesn't make much sense until you start cleaning it up. And then you can see that it is broken and pretty badly separated and filled with matrix. But once the matrix is removed, we can see how everything goes back together, and it turns out we're not missing anything but a few very tiny fragments out of here. And so like the first piece, I started separating all of the fracture lines to clean out in between. You can see there's quite a few individual pieces, but once they start going back together, they go back together really nice. And this is that section rebuilt. We just have a little bit of missing parts right in here, but we can take care of that. And this is the same piece. This is from the back side of it. And further down the rib, another bad break and offset. And down to the very tip of the rib. So this top image here, this is where I have already done probably 95% of the deconstruction, cleaning, and repair. And the only difference between this picture and the picture below it is on this one, I have gone in with a brown epoxy putty to fill in all these cracks. And I made the decision on this one. I was going to go with a concealing putty just for crack fill, but these areas here where it was actually missing chunks of bone, those since I was reconstructing part of it, I was going to use a contrasting color. And here we have the rib. This is reconstructed into 3 segments at this point. So we have the top piece here, we have the bottom piece here, and then we have one middle section right here. Now this is a really nice clean break, but the reason I have not put that back together is I do not want this ugly, jagged break to be the last thing I repair. That would have made it way more difficult. So I took this piece here and I reattached it here first. That way the final connection point that I had to make would be this nice clean break that would be easy to glue. Here's a close-up picture of those two before I began putting them back together. This little spot right here is the only original connecting point left between these two sections of the rib. These were an original touching point and everything else is broken and missing. So what I decided to do here, I built a core out of epoxy to hold it together in shape, because the epoxy is very soft when you're starting out. It's really easy to move the rib a little tiny bit trying to adjust it, and you wind up pulling it away from part of it and it bulges out and it doesn't fit right. So I made a core to hold it together. That way I could adjust all 3 axes on here, make sure it was as straight and correct as I could possibly get it. And once that was cured, then we went back and we refilled the missing areas on one side, shaped it, textured it, let that cure, and then we did the same to the other side. Now here we have the rib completed into 2 sections just before I'm getting ready to rebuild it completely. And also, just for fun, I went in and into this picture and I highlighted every fracture line to figure out exactly how many pieces of this rib there was. And there are over 100. This rib was broken into over 100 pieces. There's at least 100 on here, and I know there's a few on the back side that are a little bit separated different. But that shows you just how much these bones get broken in the ground and why you have to be so careful with them when you're excavating. So the last step of putting this back together, I used a sand bucket to help hold it up in place. That way I could get the angle just right and it wasn't going to shift. And I was able to glue it and use some tape to hold it in place while that glue set, and I didn't have to worry about it trying to fall over. And what I'm sure everybody's been waiting for, this is the completed rib. This is the top edge that we have. Of course, we're missing a little bit. This is where it was going into the curve, going into the actual head of the rib. And this is that really bad connection point that had to be reconstructed. All the way down here to the tip. All right, now I'm sure you remember all those float pieces that I collected. I do still believe this is part of the head of the rib. Unfortunately, none of these pieces go together more than they are. I mean, some of these, this has been reconstructed, and that's been reconstructed. but it's missing the back of it. These two go together, but that's it. That is all of it that goes together. None of these pieces match each other, and none of these pieces match the head. So I still need to reconstruct the head of this. I've been putting that off for a long time. Reconstruction, remodeling is not my strongest point, so I've been putting it off, but I need to just do it. Now, some of the float that was from the bottom actually rejoined to some of these. Most of it did not. But most of what was down below went back together. This is part of another rib. So I don't know if head pieces belong to this rib or head pieces belong to that rib. And these pieces don't join up with these pieces. Most of this is just scrap pieces right now. They don't join in. I did the best I could. Thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the videos, and I'm working on more. They'll be out soon. Stay tuned.